like going through the process, so, finding it, negotiating, all of that aspect. A lot of times what we try to do is draw out, kind of what you learned along there. And then if maybe
Yeah.
the easier question would be, if you did it again, what would you change?
Something that I noticed because I talk to a lot of people who are interested in buying laundromats. And something that I notice is that people, I think, when they're doing due diligence on laundromats, don't focus enough on the operations, which you do need to look at the financials. I mean, we went through and verified as much of the revenue as we could. So with our laundromat, about 75% of the revenue comes in some form of card payment. So
Mm.
that is a good thing about laundromats these days is that you're more likely to run into that situation where you can verify the revenue that way. I will say the cash revenue, like, I didn't go in and count any dollar bills. I didn't really verify that in a meaningful way. It ended up being fine. It was accurate with what we have. But because we were able to verify so much of the revenue through the card payments and because it matched their P&L, I just kind of we came to this decision of like, you know what? If they've been truthful about all these other things, then most likely they're being truthful about this. And I think that something that's also overlooked sometimes in an acquisition is the behavior of the seller and kind of the vibe you get from the seller. And I know that might sound silly to be like, why are you focusing on vibe in this very official business transaction? But like, I think it's important to have rapport. And I think I at least feel pretty confident in my ability, maybe from being a teacher, to kind of read people and get a sense of how straightforward of a person are you. And I think that's often overlooked. People are often just focusing on the business itself, but you can't do a good deal with a bad actor. I don't care how strong a business looks, like when we buy our next business, if I'm not getting a good feeling from the seller, if I feel like they're withholding information, not being straightforward, I'm probably not going to do that deal, even if the business seems really strong. Because the truth is, a seller can hide stuff during due diligence. Like, even if you do a really deep dive, there are things about the operation that they could keep from you. And that's just the fact of the matter. Or they may just misrepresent something. So I like and two, we thought about the size of it. It was like $190,000. Not that that's an insignificant amount of money, but it's not a $2 million company, right? So if it was a larger business, I probably would have spent more time like, okay, how much cash are you really making? But really, I just verified the revenue that I could, which was a majority of it, verified the utilities expenses. And then, really, what we spent the most time on was understanding how their operation worked. And this is where I think a lot of people are missing a piece in their due diligence. And this brings me to one of the most important things we'll say about laundromats, which is laundromats are not passive income. They're not passive income. There is a spectrum of laundromats from completely self serve, which means people are only going in there to do laundry themselves, to a full service, which is what we are. We outsource dry cleaning and we offer wash and fold. So there is more complexity when you get to the full service side, but even a self serve, I wouldn't consider that passive income in the truest sense of the word. So I think advice I would give, and this is something I think we did well during due diligence, is really spending time with the sellers, being like, how does this business work? How much time are you putting into it on a daily and weekly basis? How many employees do you have? What do they do? How does your pickup and drop off system work? Who closes at night? And really figure out, how is this specific laundromat going to fit into my life? Because I can tell you, you are not just going to buy a laundromat and it's going to sit there and be nice and quiet and polite. You're going to have to do something at some point. And so I think it's important to accept that any business you buy, any business is going to have problems. That's the nature of life. That's the nature of business. It doesn't mean there's something bad about the business. Every business has problems that are unique to it. So I would say anyone buying laundromat, anyone buying any business, and this is what I'll always do moving forward, is ask the seller, what are some problems you've dealt with in the last month? Give me an example of 3 things that have come up in the last month that you've had to deal with. And if they tell you they have not had any problems in the last month, they're lying to you. I could tell you 3 problems right now that I've had in my laundromat in the last month. And I'm very transparent about that because I don't think there's anything wrong with facing challenges. And I think if a seller is not willing to walk you through that doesn't seem very transparent to me. So I think that people really need to understand laundromats are not passive income. And once you accept that, really think like, okay, assuming I'm going to have to work on this business to some degree, how much is that going to be? And you may not get a perfect sense before you buy it, but as good a sense as you can. And what kinds of problems am I going to have to solve? And if you either can't solve those types of problems or you don't want to solve those types of problems, then it's probably not the business for you.